Grief isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and hidden behind strength. For me, grief looked like staying busy. It looked like showing up every day, even when I felt emotionally flat. That flatness wasn't a lack of love, it was protection. It was my body saying, let's keep you safe until you're ready to feel again. I've learned that grief isn't only about losing someone you love. It can also be about losing what you hoped life would be. Losing a rhythm, a routine, a dream. And girl, when you realize that, it changes how you give yourself grace.
Life keeps changing, and I keep aging. Turn my stress into blessings. I'm here to share my lessons. Tracy Marchelle.
Hey, welcome to Girl, I'm Making It Through. I'm your host, Tracy Marchelle, and today we're going to talk about something every one of us will face in this lifetime: grief. My journey with grief has layers. I had PTSD long before I lost my husband, so when life hit hard, I went straight into take care of business mode. That's who I am. I handle what needs to be handled. And many of you know that I am a military veteran, so that's what we do. We handle things. I managed medications for him, doctor visits, and all the details that came with being a caretaker. I was strong on the outside, but on the inside, I was grieving a different kind of loss. Not just his passing, but the marriage we should have had. I love my husband deeply. I took great care of him all the way through, and I don't regret a single thing. But I also mourn the moments that never happened, the laughter we didn't get to share, the plans that never came to life. And it wasn't until later that I realized I was also grieving my mother. That loss was quietly sitting in the background, waiting for me to make space for it. And today actually happens to be the anniversary of my mother's death. I didn't realize it until I was preparing to come to the studio to record this show. It's like just when I had the courage to do this show, now this. But my mom is cheering me on from heaven. I'm sure she is. She was my biggest cheerleader. And today, my strength. When I eventually joined or sought help to process the loss through Grief Share and other means, I started to recognize just how much grief I was carrying. I've mentioned Grief Share before. It's a group, a local group. I'm sure your church may have one. Griefshare.org is where you should check. It's a group that helps people process loss. It helped me name my pain and understand that grief doesn't just show up for one thing. Sometimes it shows up in layers. One loss stacked on another, each one needing its own kind of attention. Grief isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and hidden behind strength. For me, grief looked like staying busy. It looked like showing up every day, even when I felt emotionally flat. That flatness wasn't a lack of love, it was protection. It was my body saying, let's keep you safe until you're ready to feel again. I've learned that grief isn't only about losing someone you love. It can also be about losing what you hoped life would be. Losing a rhythm, a routine, a dream. And girl, when you realize that, it changes how you give yourself grace. Now let's talk about the stages of grief. Stage 1 is denial. Denial for me wasn't pretending it didn't happen. It was functioning so well that people thought I was okay. PTSD has trained me to focus on survival, and I was good at it. Denial looked like control, but it was really hurt and heart saying, one step at a time. Stage 2 is anger. Then came the anger, not just about the death, but about dreams left unfinished. I felt anger at how fair it all felt, that the marriage we wanted never got to fully bloom. But I've come to see that anger isn't bad. It's just love that's been interrupted. Stage 3 for me, bargaining. I did spend some time in the what ifs. What if we'd done this differently? What if I had slowed down? But eventually I realized that what ifs keep us tied to the past we can't change. Healing starts when we say, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. That's as a daughter, I gave my mom all I could give. Depression, stage 4. This stage wasn't always tears. It was stillness. It was feeling flat, numb, detached. PTSD can make that worse because your body's still on guard, even when your mind knows you're safe. But even in that flatness, I learned something. Healing can be quiet. Progress doesn't always look like emotion. And stage 5, acceptance. Acceptance didn't come with a big moment. It came in small breaths. It's waking up one day and realizing the world feels a little less heavy. It's laughing without guilt. It's remembering without breaking down. It's understanding that love doesn't end. It simply shifts forms. Healing from grief and PTSD isn't about getting over anything. It's about learning to live with it. These are some of the things that helped me slowly find my way back to myself. Number 1 was faith and prayer. My faith kept me grounded. Even when I didn't have words, I talked to God honestly about the numbness, the anger, and the slow return of hope. 2 for me was creative outlets. Writing. I mentioned several times writing in a journal. And with that, sometimes it doesn't have to make sense. Just put it out. Get it out of you. Write it on paper. You may or may not go back and read it, but as long as it's out of you and somewhere else, you can deal with it a little better. The second thing I did with creative outlets was redesigning my space for me, for my now me. The first thing I did was redecorate our bedroom to now make it mine instead of ours. That was a big step because it meant putting away and moving away from some things that he liked or he had. But creating the space and redesigning the space for me at this moment was a huge step for me. And it helped me step into my next chapter. And creating content like this podcast also became my therapy. Creativity gave me a way to turn pain into purpose. Oh, and also I picked up a new hobby, photography. I mentioned that on another show. So I'm going to continue to dive into photography because I found that I love it. And another thing I mentioned on the show, and you guys can check some previous episodes, was number 3, solo adventures. Traveling alone, especially my solo cruises with Norwegian, reminded me that I can still enjoy my own company. Peace and healing often meet me on the water. I love the beach, love the ocean. Number 4, community support, including Grief Share. Your friends, your family, your support system. And joining a group like Grief Share gave me language for emotions I didn't even realize I was feeling. It didn't heal me, but it helped me begin the process. It gave me tools, perspective, and a safe space to breathe. Even though you have your support system, they may not be dealing with what you're dealing with right now. To be in a space of other people that get it, as I mentioned, was a safe space for me to breathe. The rest of the healing came from time, faith, and choosing every day to keep showing up for myself. Number 5, grace for the process. Some days I feel strong, other days I feel the ache, but I've learned to give myself grace. Healing isn't a straight line, it's a walk of faith. You still here, girl. I've learned that grief doesn't disappear, it just changes shape. I still miss my husband, I still miss my mom, and sometimes I still grieve the marriage I thought we'd have. But I also know this. I gave love, I showed up and I did my best. So if you're in that in-between space, not where you were, but not quite where you want to be, give yourself some patience. Healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about honoring it while choosing to keep living. You're not broken, sis. You're becoming. I'm Tracy Marchelle, and girl, I'm making it through. And so are you.
Life keeps changing, and I keep aging. Turn my stress into blessings. I'm here to share my